Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Econ Americas podcast, where every month we share under the radar investment opportunities from countries across our big continent, up from North America down to South America in Patagonia. You can find us on all the major podcast platforms. If you haven't followed us there already, please go to YouTube, to Spotify, to SoundCloud, to Pocket Cast, you name it. We're on the major podcast platforms. And if you're new to this show, well, Econ Americas is a research firm that provides economic intelligence from countries across the Americas. So you can check us at econamericas.com. I am Daniel Duarte, your host, hailing from Asunción, Paraguay, and today we have a guest from Ecuador. She is Gabriella Guerrero. She's an associate attorney with Robalino Law Firm, where she works on renewable energy, hydrocarbons, and telecommunications. She's also an editor with Lexis Ecuador and collaborates with the think tank Libre Razón since 2021 on training programs for aspiring politicians. She has also served as an advisor to political parties in Ecuador and worked for the vice presidency of the Andean Parliament. In addition, Gabriela holds a master's degree in public policy, a bachelor's degree in criminal law, and another one in international relations. So she is the woman for the job we are going to discuss today, that is mining in Ecuador. Gabriela, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Daniel, and thank you to all the people that are listening to us today. And it's a very honor for me to be here. Let's talk about mining that is actually growing here in Ecuador.
Perfect. Yeah, this has been a topic that's been in the news lately. There have been developments not only in Ecuador but in the region, Peru notably. And the new administration of Guillermo Lasso, he is the new president who took office in May 2021, and he has been putting forth some reforms on the mining sector. So why don't we start, Gabriela, by giving our viewers and listeners who may not know about Ecuador, what are the major minerals and projects currently underway? Who are the main actors in this industry? Are they foreign firms, or is the state-owned company leading projects? What is the story in Ecuador right now?
Well, actually, right now we have a kind of mixture because we have a lot of hydrocarbons. So in one part we have, for example, petroleum oil, and by the other hand, we have mining that is actually growing a lot. I think that since 2015, that is when the Ministry of Mining was created because of the potential that it has here in Ecuador. So right now we have, for example, in mining projects as Mirador that produce copper. It's very huge mining sector, and also Fruta del Norte that produces gold. So those are like the most or the largest scale mines in production right now in Ecuador. And for example, this November 2021, we have also a set of, they make something with different kind of investors to bring new capitals here at Ecuador. So right now we're going to have more production in this mining industry. What we have to know is that Ecuador is very good at mining, especially in reserves of gold, silver, and copper. So the first thing I would like our audience to know is that we have different type of minerals, and we have to look forward for which ones we have or we're going to explore. For example, we have metallics and non-metallics. And then we have to choose, for example, in the metallics, if we want to have this precious metallics minerals as gold, as silver, as platinum. We have other kinds as steel, for example, that we have cobalt, that we have nickel. or we have other types as a special, like arsenic or galicium. So because we have a lot of minerals, the kind of treatment that they have to have, it's very different and it's very special. That's why we have a lot of regulations, and it depends on the type of company that we have, that they're going to being asked, for example, different type of licenses asked by the Ministry of Energy, that right now is the entity that actually controls. Is not more the mining ministry, is the Ministry of Energy and Non-Renewable Resources, and as well as the Mining Regulation and Control Agency, that is the one that's auditing that everything is all right in the mining sector. So for just you to have like a map of what's going on in Ecuador.
Sure.
We have, for example, in Imbabura, Pichincha, Cotopaxi, Bolivar, Azuay, and Loja, we have a lot of consensus that they actually produce this type of minerals that I was talking about. And we have a lot of mining growing at the coast part of the country as well, in El Oro, and in the rainforest section, we have in Zamora, Chinchipe, and we have in Morona, Santiago, projects as, for example, Warinza, that have a lot of things coming up from there. So that is what I can tell you, like in a general way, about what's going on in mining here.
Sure, and I understand there are joint ventures as well between the Ecuadorian government and private companies, right?
Yes, actually, you have the first. I mean, it is like it's like a pyramid. So first you have this national mining company that is called ENAMI. So it doesn't need like any approval from the government to have a concession. That means that
Right.
ENAMI is the one that can choose whenever where wants to work with, or the places that they want. After that, they ask for other type of companies as mixture companies or low economy companies, where they can choose these concessions. And if not, then you open up to other kind of companies that come like foreign companies. So they can do this work together. We call it APPs in Ecuador. That means Alianzas Público-Privada, Private and Public Alliances, to have this mining concession. So what the state creates here is a set of rights and obligations that they confer to that enterprise, foreign enterprise or local enterprise. But they can also give this concession to a local person, to an individual, if also they have all the rights and all the permissions that entities as the ministry or the control agency give. But that is the way it works here. So the first one that has right, that would be the state. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and since Guillermo Lasso took office, he has declared mining as a strategic sector for economic reactivation. Those are his words. But what does this mean in practice for the industry?
So what we're trying to do here is, as I see, like the greatest objectives that the state has with this strategic sector is, for example, increase the productivity that we own, because we have seen that we are full of these hydrocarbons that could help the economy to get reactivated, and that would also give those places the opportunity to develop their cities, because what they are trying to do is to make a set of inclusion of the actors that not only work in the mining sector, but also that live in those places that sometimes is hard for the government to make projects. So the thing is working with the people. and given the education to the people so they can develop their own sector and as well as the mining industry, for example, in the country. So here I think that where they are looking forward is to raise the level of modernization, of development and technology, given also better laws to create, for example, the taxes that are better for people that want to invest or enterprises that want to invest here in Ecuador. So that's the first thing that I think that they have to change, and as well work together with the part of environmental impact. That is another thing that right now we have seen is very dangerous. So that is how it's working right now.
Yeah, he has talked a lot and emphasized the need for responsible mining in Ecuador. And what is he exactly alluding to? Has there been a project in the past that had some problems, or social or environmental problems? What is he talking about?
Well, right now I think that the problem here in Ecuador is the illegal mining. Because I was telling you, it is so hard, the part of mining, because you need so many regulations because of the impacts that are going to produce. Illegal mining, you are going to have a lot of problems in the way that you're not going to follow the steps that you should before making that exploitation. That means, just for you, let you know, the phases of mining, it begins with a prospecting phase. And that means that you're going to make first like a research to see if you have something there, if there is a mineral in that area that you can actually sell later. So when you
deposit,
have that,
right?
that prospecting phase, you don't need like a permission from the government. Any of us, if we have, I don't know, an area that you will want to see if there is something, you can do it in your home. You don't need a permission. But then if you found something, you enter to a second phase that is called the exploration phase. And in that part, you're going to determine, for example, the size, the shape of the area. You're going to see if the deposit, for example, have any content or quality of the mining, of the mineral. And then you have to do some research as a geological mapping, as a geochemical sampling to see if you're going to have some sediments that are going to affect the soil. You're going to have a soil sampling and soundings to see the floor, what is not happening, for example, in the illegal mining. And then you have problems as Zamora. And then you're going to see that, I don't know, buildings are falling because you have tunnels in the back, in the end of the, I don't know, of house. And then you're going to find that kind of problems. And finally, you're going to have an exploration phase when you can make the operations. But if you haven't made the prospectation and the exploration phase, you are not going to have all the informs or all the permissions that you need to continue to this last phase, and then you can prepare your deposit for the extraction, for example. And then you go on with the marketing and etc. But those are like the most important phases. So what I see right now and the government is talking about is the illegal mining is not taking into account those phases, or not having maybe experts on those phases. And then you have a big problem.
Of course. And what can you tell us about the reform that the government introduced? I think it was last year, and the local mining industry was, at least from news reports, was happy about those changes. What can you tell us about how it was done before and what changes now?
Well, right now, as I think that it's better that we have firstly just one ministry that controls everything about hydrocarbons and non-renewable resources. natural resources, because then you're going to have specialized agencies that are going to see that you are doing well your work. Before, you don't have you weren't so strict in the phases that I was talking about before, so that could not give you like a mapping that you're doing a work that actually allows the people to be, for example, calm with the environmental impacts or with the social impacts. Right now, you have, for example, a set of social work, so you can work with the communities as well. And that makes, as I told you before, that produces a development in the community that you are making your exploration or whatever. So as well, the part of the investment, I think, is the most important thing here, because that is the only way that I think that we can have the enough money to make these programs, because it's an invention that you're going to need, you can do it by your own. You're going to need help from the company that comes from other countries that has more experience as well, that is more developed. Right now, what I can say is that mining in Ecuador is not so developed. We are in a very young level to set it. So even if it is an economy activity that takes, a lot of advantage here, right now, we're just growing in that. I think another, yeah.
Sure, no, go ahead, please.
I just want to end up saying that I think that what we have now is maybe to find out ways of regulating this illegal mining, that I think is one of the biggest problems here in Ecuador. And it goes also linked with what is going on with the environmental impacts. This illegal mining is also been one of the greatest problems in environmental impact. And if we don't change that, I think that no matter how many laws we're producing right now, is not going to be enough to stop that.
Exactly. I was just going to mention that 40% is the projected growth of mineral exports for Ecuador in 2022 with respect to last year. So that's a huge potential for growth. And like you said, productivity seems to be the main focus of this effort, private and public. So we have produced a backgrounder on Ecuador's 50 public-private partnership projects that our colleague Paz Gomez wrote. So if people in the audience want to check that out, you can go to ecanamericas.com, and you'll see there are many mining projects in many different minerals: gold, copper, zinc. And regarding this, how safe is it for investors to do mining in Ecuador today? The government is telling the world, come and invest in Ecuador, but how safe? What is the legal framework for investing?
With all the reforms that we saw, the legal reforms, right now we're trying to have contracts of investment that are, or that give the investor more security. That means that, for example, the terms and conditions on your contract are not going to change for the time that you have the concession. That means, for example, that a concession that lasts 25 years, you are not going to have changes in that, in terms of taxes, or in terms of the area that was given to you, or the licenses, or the rest of permissions. So that is going to give also the investor a little bit more of security to take the money, the capital, and bring it to Ecuador. I think that right now the mining sector represents almost 5.68% of our GDP. So it's actually a number that is growing, an important number that is growing, considering that petroleum is around the 32%. So if we can maintain those conditions that we're working with the government, with the laws that have been given, for example, in the Ley de Desarrollo post-COVID, that is the new law that actually changes different sectors of hydrocarbons and inventions and etc. That is what is trying to do, is given this juridical security for the investor. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now that you mention legal certainty, like 1 month after Lasso announced these projects, these foreign capital projects, the Constitutional Court, if I'm correct, ruled against a permit for one mining project. And what are the implications of that ruling? Does that stop or alter in any way the path for the mining industry?
I would like to say I have a concrete answer for this question, but it's something that we're actually analyzing right now, because firstly, it's kind of brand new, right?
Yeah.
And then we're not sure yet. For an instance, court is trying to, I would say, like, given a provision to do mining, but putting a lot of signals of way of stopping the development of mining because of all the implications that we have. As I said, more than the mining as it is the illegal mining the real problem. For another for another hand, also, I think that could affect in the future other inversions, other invest, if we don't find clear analysis from the court, because we have, I think that it's like half. Some of the judges are in favor of, others have their doubts. But at the same time, we have to consider that Ecuador is not ready for a transition to other kind of market economies. I mean, like, I don't know, energy, renewable energy or something like that. We haven't set yet the basis for that. So I think that it's going to be a problem.
Just one clarification. What was the main argument of the court for suspending the permit or the license? What was the main issue?
Principally, we're going to find there a set of permissions. We cannot have, for example, concessions that are on the borders in the areas that are, for example, near Colombia or near Peru, because
the borders.
On the borders, because we have security, national security things over there. On one hand, on other hand, these environmental problems I was talking about, because of all the implications with the rivers, with the oceans, with all the risks that have found out with that. So I think it principally goes over there, and the government and the industry like sit down in the same place and maybe find out a way of having their interest very clear. Because right now I think that everyone has like a lack of information first, and in the second hand, they don't really understand how the development of the industry goes. And in the third place, if you don't know how this makes your economy grow, maybe just putting some, imposing like laws or a set of things that not that don't produce an invest in this area is going to be hard. I think is that the law is not conceived for thinking about it developed in a good way, in a way that we can understand what the sector means. So maybe if we can work a little bit more with all the communities that are involved, because I know they are affected. I know that I don't know, illegal mining affect those communities. Maybe we can have another solution that won't affect this area, this hydrocarbons area, because Ecuador is not ready to stop mining. If we do that, our economy is going to be great affected, because even if we don't like it, we depend on that. Right now, we depend on that.
Yeah, there has to be a middle way. And one of the arguments I read on news reports about the ruling was that projects had to have the prior consultation of the communities involved, especially indigenous communities. And what is the situation in Ecuador with those communities? Because if I am not mistaken, some of them are tied to political parties or have their own parties with representation in Congress. And what is this political component added to the mining sector that maybe is not present in other countries?
What is present here is actually that you have to make this, you have to talk with the community before. So they have to agree because of our constitution. We have to think about that. We don't own the lands as we said, because they have this ancient right to own the land. So we are actually asking them to let us use that lands to make the exploitations or explorations or whatever. So if you are going to find communities affected as endemic communities, for example, you have to work with them in a way that first you're not going to affect their way of living or their food or whatever they need to survive. So that means that you are going to have a plan to reorganize those communities somewhere else near, because you cannot change your way of living, and you are going to make the minimum impact, so you can, for example, have your highways or whatever you need to get to the concession. Here, not only mining, but as well as in petroleum oil, for example.
Right, other projects. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I think it's interesting because at the same time, you have this social responsibility that you cannot do whatever you want in the concession, and that you have to respect the environment and to give them all the possibilities to try to have normal life with the works that you're doing. I think this is the hard part, because I know it's it's something beneficial for the country to have these incomes, but at the same time you are changing lives, changing the status of an endemic community, and that is hard. So then you have to put in a balance and see in the best way what you can do so you can protect both rights. So that's hard. That it's something that government have to keep on working in.
Definitely.
That it exists. Mm-hmm.
And now to wrap up this conversation, what do you think Ecuador should do to improve the business environment and attract more foreign capital, be it for mining, and for other industries, hydrocarbons, you name it?
Okay, so right now what we have to know is that even if we don't like what I'm going to say, we only have 20 more years to make to explode this kind of hydrocarbons, mining or or petroleum or whatever. Why? Because in 20 years we are going to that is going to be useful. That's why I think that right now the government is trying to see or to expand the way of getting investment so they can make the exploitation in this kind of sector. So what I think that we should do right now is if if we are trying to get them best to explode, we have to get a plan to make a transition to these renewable energies, for example. Ecuador is full of elements that can allow us to, for example, I don't know, make sand energy or uh, wind energy. So we have a lot of resources, of natural resources to make that. And I see that right now we have new clients on that area. It is growing right now, and we have a lot of companies that are coming, for example, from Holland. But I think that as we are trying to explode those areas of hydrocarbons, we need a plan for a long-term plan that is going to be or that should be respected by the new governments that are upcoming. Because if right now we leave it in 4-year government and then it comes somebody else with a new idea and is not going to follow up this trace and keep on producing this plan to make this transition, then it's worthwhile. Is not going to be ready for the time that we need it. Right now, we're going to have money, but in 20 years, we're not. So, yeah, my question here is, are we doing this? I don't think so. We have some plans, but I don't see a certain plan that we can follow up.
I see. Excellent. And before we leave you, Gabriela, why don't you tell us about your project called La Politeca, which I found very interesting because you're trying to improve the how can I say the quality of those who reach government posts and jobs. So I'll leave you to explain it. What is the problem you're trying to address?
Thank you, Daniel. Yes, my project is called La Politeca, and it actually creates cultural policy for all the people that, not only politicians, that normal people, for citizens. Because right now I think that politics is a hard topic to talk about. We hate it. We actually believe that politics is a synonym of corruption, and it is not. So what I'm trying to explain in my networks and social media, I work a lot with Instagram and Facebook. I'm trying to give information in a easy way to understand of hard problems, for example, or topics or definitions that we can understand and maybe be citizens with more knowledge about our environment, of our country, of our world, because I talk about also about international politics, for example, or economy or law or whatever. But I'm trying to make people think out of the box, and if we have elections, then choose better candidates or choose better people that is going to represent us in the government. And I think it's a great way also to listen to people questions that sometimes you say like, hey, I really don't know even what's the difference between right and left, if something is good or the other one is bad, or why do we have to vote? I mean, why? So that is what I'm trying to do. It's one of my passions, and I hope that it lasts for a long term.
Excellent. And folks, if you want to check out Gabriela's project, we'll leave all the links in the show notes. So make sure to go to econamericas.com/podcast. And there you'll find the show notes for this episode. and also links for Gabriela's social media accounts where you can follow her work. And please leave us your comments, your suggestions. Who should we interview next and on what topics, which countries, what industries? We are all ears. So thank you once again for joining us this month, and we'll catch you up next month. Thank you, Gabriela.
Thank you.